Good evening, Miriam.
Good evening.
Good evening, Jerry. And I see Baruch is there, but I don't know if he's really there. But anyway, welcome to this portion is called Bo, the last of the plagues. And Pharaoh is being forced to let our people go. And as I said, as I read it, I used to be much lazier. When our rabbi was doing these classes, he did it in a very different format than I am, because he's a very different teacher. But I didn't read the way I'm reading it now. And I let, when others are teaching, you kind of let them do it. But when you have to do it, you see it with a much different eye. That's why I really exhort people to just sit down and read it. Go through the portion. See what you think it says because of what other people say it says, and read it yourself. Sometimes, of course, we have to look at the Hebrew. I'm learning a little more Hebrew now because I go to I have an interlinear and I look at certain words and I do a little more research than I did before because I left it up to him. So let's get started and let's read this portion. It's going to go from Exodus 10:1 to Exodus 13:16, and it says, Bo. And the Lord said to Moses, go to Pharaoh, for I have hardened his heart and the heart of his certain servants, that I might show you my signs in the midst of them. So he's going to not only show Pharaoh his signs, but he's going to show his own people. He's going to show Moses the signs and the people, so that you may tell in the ears of your sons. Really, this is like when you see an expression like that, to speak right in your ear. Tell your children and tell your grandchildren what I did in Egypt, what I brought upon Egypt, and my signs which I have done among them, that you may know that I am the Lord. And sometimes I really wonder how many people in Egypt really, really knew then that these signs were a message from God, just like we see so many signs happening today. The Jewish world, the Christian world, the Islamic world, those who are really into God's word, even though they have their own religions, some of them really see that something is happening today because of the signs that God is showing us. So the story of Egypt is very similar to different ages that we've been through, and it's exactly the same as what we're going through now. And Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh and said to him, thus says the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, how long will you refuse to humble yourself before me? Let my people go so that they may serve me. Now, when you hear that, how long will you refuse to humble yourself before me? Miriam, I'd like your opinion on this as well, if you can tune in, because the first thing that I thought about, how long will you refuse to humble yourself? What does that make you think about?
Well, it just makes me think of how each one of us in our own lives have to stop blaming our suffering or whatever on other people or other things and start to look at our own selves. But I don't think that's what you mean.
Well, but it's interesting because the first thing that came to my head, Jerry, has anything popped into your head when you see that? How long will you refuse to humble yourself?
Well, there's a lot of places which how long, but I didn't get anything immediately here.
Okay, what I saw was that we have a choice. I always thought that we need to be humbled, that it takes God to humble us. But here it says, you see, everybody says, well, how can, if God is hardening Pharaoh's heart, how is it his fault? But here God is saying, how long will you refuse to humble yourself? It's like we get into a position of a way of thinking, and we don't want to change our mind about it. We are
Maybe
so stubborn.
The thing that in response to that is yes, we have free will to make choices how we respond to God, but first what we do need from God is, or at least we need to be aware of God's presence.
Well, that goes without saying, of course. We're
no,
speaking
but
here
what
to
I'm
people.
saying
is
with Pharaoh, either he didn't listen or whatever, but he didn't respond to anything, any experience of or a knowledge of God being with him at all.
Did he not? Because don't forget, we've just passed through 7 plagues. This isn't at the beginning. He's already been saying, speak to your God. He already said the words Yud He Vav He came out of Pharaoh's mouth.
Yeah, it's true, but he says your God, like maybe he thinks of it in a sense almost like magic. Well, that's something in your
possible. But for me,
know.
But for me here it says we have the opportunity, we have the ability.
Yeah, no, that is I agree with that.
That's what I thought. Wow, we do have a choice.
Yeah.
Well, as far as that choice, there's some explanations with God allowing, with God hardening the heart of Pharaoh. I would consider, and you can correct this here, I would consider to add in the words that God allowed Pharaoh to harden his heart, because he certainly didn't have to let him do anything. So he allowed him to choose that. He allowed
exactly.
Instead of saying God hardened his heart, he allowed Pharaoh to have free choice and harden his heart.
Yes.
He allowed it. I would put that in. I
agree with that, because he gives us free will, he steps back and allows us to, he warns us, he speaks to us, and then he allows us to do what we're going to do. Otherwise, what's the point of free will?
Right. So the point is, he said he hardened his heart, because if the Lord didn't want him to harden it, it would have been impossible for him to do it. So he allowed him to harden his heart.
Excellent. If you refuse to let my people go, tomorrow I will bring locusts into your border, and they shall cover the face of the earth, so that no one shall be able to see the earth. They shall eat the leftovers of what escaped when I sent the hail, and every tree that grows for you out of the field. So these locusts are going to sweep through and eat everything. It's funny, because I was thinking that afterwards, that locusts can be eaten. They should have grabbed them up in the net and cooked them. But again, were locusts gods to the Greeks, to the Egyptians? Because you see that in a lot of pagan cultures, a lot of these insects and animals are gods. All your houses shall be filled. I was trying to imagine my house full of locusts. The houses of all your servants and the houses of all the Egyptians. Neither your father nor your father's fathers have seen since the day that they were upon this earth until to this day. And he turned and went out from Pharaoh. And Pharaoh's servants said to him, how long will this man be a snare to us? Let the men go, that they may serve the Lord your God. Do you not know that Egypt is already destroyed? And Moses and Aaron, so he brought them back to Pharaoh, and he said to them, go serve the Lord. And then he said, because remember, they said, let the men go. And that's not what Moses was asking. And he said to them, go serve the Lord your God. But who are going? Who are they that go? And Moses said, we will go with our young and with our old, with our sons and with our daughters, with our flocks and with our herds, we will go, for we must hold a feast to the Lord. And he said to them, so be the Lord with you, as I let you go, and your little ones see that evil is before your face. In other words, just imagine that I'm going to let you go. If you're going to take all your children and all the people and all the animals, never. Go now, take your men and go serve the Lord, for that's what you want, that's what you desire. And they were driven out from Pharaoh's presence. And the Lord said to Moses, stretch out your hand over the land of Egypt for the locusts, that they may come up upon the land of Egypt and eat every herb of the land, everything that the hail has left. And Moses stretched forth his rod over the land of Egypt, and the Lord brought an east wind upon the land all that day and all the night. And when it was morning, the east wind brought the locusts. Wasn't it, if I'm remembering, wasn't it also an east wind that dried up the Yamsuf?
I don't know. But like, even if this is a natural phenomenon, because it says the Lord brought the east wind, like he's using natural forces.
Exactly.
But it's the timing. There haven't been any locusts since the beginning of, remember, there'll just be a few verses back.
Right.
Anyway, so it's
you hear me?
Yes, Brian, we hear you.
Oh, Brian. Okay.
So yes, you're absolutely right, Miriam. It's God uses nature, but he controls nature.
Right.
He's timing it. We can't time anything when it comes to the rains or to the winds. Is that what you were going to say, Jerry?
No, I was going to say that's the way he split the waters, also with the wind. I think that's
exactly.
what you're alluding to. Eh?
Exactly,
Right.
and I think it was also the east wind, but I'll have to look forward. But I think I remember that. And the locusts went up over all the land of Egypt, and rested in all the borders of Egypt, and were so grievous. Before them, there never were locusts like this, and there were never locusts like that after that. For they covered the face of the whole land, so that it was darkened. Now the land is going to be darkened here, but the next two, these three, the rabbis say are are all plagues of darkness. And they ate every herb from the land and all the fruit of the trees which the hail had left, and there remained not any green thing, neither tree nor herb of the field throughout all the land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh called for Moses and Aaron in haste. He says, I have sinned against Yud-He-Vav-He, your God, and against you. Now, therefore, forgive, I pray you. Forgive my sin this once, and beg the Lord your God that he may take away this from me, this death. And he went out from Pharaoh and begged the Lord. And the Lord turned an exceedingly strong west wind and took up the locusts. And now the wind is coming from the opposite direction. And he took the locusts and he drove them into Yamsuf. Boy, I'm telling you, the fish must have had a heyday. There remained not one locust in all the border of Egypt. I mean, that's amazing. Imagine all of them, gone.
Wow.
But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he did not let the children of Israel go. I mean, when you think about this, one thing after another, he easily could have taken the children of Israel out. He could have killed Pharaoh in one fell swoop. But he was allowing this process to show us that each and every one of us go through a process. We go through a journey in our life. And sometimes it takes us going over and over, banging our head against the same wall over and over until we learn our lesson. The Lord said to Moses, stretch out your hand toward the heavens, that there may be darkness over the land, darkness that can be felt. This was a real choshech. It was a palpable darkness. And Moses stretched forth his hand toward heaven, and there was a thick darkness in all the land of Egypt for 3 days. They couldn't see one another.
That must have been terrifying.
Can you imagine? I can't even imagine it. Such darkness. No one got up from his place for 3 days. But all the children of Israel had light in their dwelling.
What chapter?
That's chapter 10. And chapter 10, now we're verse 24. And Pharaoh called to Moses and said, "Go, serve the Lord, but let your flocks and your herds stay back. Let your little ones go with you." And Moses said, "You have to give us our offerings and our sacrifices, our burnt offerings, that we may bring them to the Lord. Our cattle also shall go with us. Not one hoof shall be left behind, because we need to serve the Lord with these animals. And we don't know what God is going to ask for, which ones we're going to need to offer until we get there." But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he would not let them go. And Pharaoh said to him, "Get away from me, and listen, you will see my face no more. For in the day that you see my face, you will die." And Moses said, "You have spoken well. I will not see your face again."
So Peggy, at this point, I'm not sure where it's mentioned that for the Israelites to go out of Egypt with wealth, some people, or I'm not sure wherever, says that during those days of darkness is when they collected the silver and gold.
No, that's what they say, but it's not the fact. Moses told God that it would happen, but it's going to happen soon. But it hasn't happened yet. They couldn't get up. They couldn't see anything. It wasn't at that time. It's not in Torah. Whoever says that is making it up. And the Lord said to Moses, "I will bring one more plague." Now I'm in chapter 11, Brian, the first verse. And the Lord said to Moses, "One more plague will I bring upon Pharaoh and upon Egypt. After he will let you go. And he shall let you go, and he shall surely thrust you out altogether." The people are going to throw you out of the land. Now, speak into the ears of the people, and let them ask every man his neighbor, and every woman of her neighbor. Let him ask for jewelry of silver and jewelry of gold. And the Lord gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians. Moreover, the man Moses was very great in the land of Egypt. In the
Peggy?
sight, yes.
Just one thing, I never really realized, but when they say this, ask every man and his neighbor, every woman her neighbor, jewels and gold and silver, like that almost makes it seem like they're living like they're in such
Proximity, yes.
Proximity and association with them.
Yeah.
It's like I never realized how
close they were, exactly.
Even though they were in Goshen,
yeah,
their society, they were still, so there must have been such cultural exchange, even though they're slaves. I mean, who are they asking for silver and gold and whatever?
Their neighbors. And it's very possible that some of them had married Egyptians and didn't leave.
And the other thing is a question, perhaps many of them were house slaves as well.
Exactly. You're exactly right.
So here is where they asked for as you mentioned, Peggy, here's where they asked for the jewels and was afterward.
Yes, here's they're asking, but they don't get them yet. You'll see when they're given them. Because remember, they were slaves. So yes, they were stationed in Goshen, but it's like I live here in Côte Saint Luc, but when I go to work in another part of the city. So it's the same here. So these slaves, they may live in Goshen, but they were as you said, they were servants in people's homes, or they had to go build the pyramids or whatever they had to go and do. They didn't build them in Goshen.
Now, I never realized it says, oh, am I on mute? Oh, no. I never realized that God says, speak to the people and ask them for their jewelry and stuff.
Yes. And God,
I thought they just gave it to them.
No.
Wow.
the Lord, and the God opened their hearts, gave the people favor in the sight
Right,
of the
right.
Egyptians.
Right.
And Moses, with at this point, considered very great in the land of Egypt. The people saw in the sight
Right.
of Pharaoh's servants, Pharaoh was losing face in the sight of his own people.
Right.
And Moses was becoming, remember at the beginning, God said, I will make you as a god to Pharaoh. And this is what he's been doing, because this is the battle of the gods.
Right. Making Moses as a god.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Moses said, thus says the Lord, about midnight, I will go in the midst of Egypt, and all the firstborn in the land of Egypt shall die. Now, the firstborn, it's not the firstborn female, because here in the Hebrew, it's Bechor, and the Bechor is always the male. From the firstborn of Pharaoh, who sits upon the throne, to the firstborn of the female slave, who works at the mill, and the firstborn of the cattle. And there shall be such a great cry throughout the land of Egypt, such as there has never been before, and there will never be again. But against any of the children of Israel, not even a dog shall bark against man or beast, that you may know how the Lord makes a difference between the Egyptians and Israel. And all these your servants shall come down to me and bow down to me and say, get out. And all the people who follow you, and after that I will go out. And he went out from Pharaoh in hot anger. So he's yelling at Pharaoh, you're going to say, get out and let all the people go. And the Lord said to Moses, but Pharaoh will not listen to you, so that my wonders may be multiplied in the land of Egypt. This was going to be almost the final straw. We think it's the final straw, but later we see that he follows after him. Moses and Aaron did all these wonders, niflaot, I think it would be. Let's see, et kol moftim, before Pharaoh. And the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he did not let the children of Israel go out of his land. Chapter 12. And the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, now this is really important, because remember before I said, when we change small little things in God's word, it gives us license to change more. And he's saying, this month, Chachodesh Hazeh, shall be to you the beginning of months, Rosh Chadoshim, and a new month, the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. Happy New Year is at Pesach.
Yeah.
This is Nisan, the first month. So speak to the whole congregation of Israel, saying,
I think Rosh is also, I think it's the first month, or it's Rosh is like the head, or
the head of the months. Exactly. Rosh Chodeshim, the head of the months. This is where our calendar should start on the Jewish calendar, not in September in the fall. It's in the spring. Speak to all the congregation of Israel, saying, in the 10th day of this month, they shall take every man a lamb, a seh, according to their father's houses, a lamb for each household. And if the household is too little for the lamb, then he and his neighbor next to him shall take one according to the number of people. According to every man's eating, you shall make your count for the lamb. So, in other words, you're going to take only what you need, no more, no less. Your lamb shall be without blemish. When we bring something to God, it's got to be perfect, not second best. A male of the first year. Now, this next thing is very important, this next line. You can take it, you shall take it from the sheep or from the goats. Now, why do I say it's important? Because everybody talks about Jesus being the Lamb of God who came to take away the sins of the world. Well, they never say he's the goat of God, because that would sound so silly. But when you read the Torah and what it actually says, you see that there's absolutely no way that what happened at Pesach could be fulfilled by the death of Jesus Christ dying. Impossible, and we'll go on and you'll see other places. You shall keep it to the 14th day of the same month. So it's going to be in the house for 3 days. Imagine a little lamb or a little goat. People have them as pets. They are the cutest little things. They're in the house for 3 days. And then the whole assembly of Israel had to take this little lamb and they had to kill it. That is not easy. It was worse for the Egyptians because these animals were considered gods. And they shall take the blood, put it on the 2 side posts and on the lintels, and upon the houses wherein they shall eat it. Now, I just found out last night from Mauricio that there are other cultures at that time that did exactly the same thing. They would take the blood of a lamb and put it on the doorpost of their houses. It was part of a ritual sacrifice to a pagan god. What God does is take pagan rituals and change the focus from the pagan gods to him. He didn't wrench us away from gods, but he slowly shifted our vision. And they shall eat the flesh that night, roast with fire and unleavened bread. With bitter herbs they shall eat it. We cannot eat it raw or boiled in water, but roasted with fire, its head with its legs and the inward parts.
Another
What? Sorry? Miriam, you went on mute.
Another thing about the Lamb of God, so to speak, in the Christian paradigm is like you don't eat the lamb. So they may compare it to the lamb, but here they're saying eat it.
Well, in Catholicism, they've done that. They've taken the host,
that's true. But,
which represents the matzah, turned it into this little host, this wafer, becomes the body of Christ, and then they eat it.
Right.
But it has nothing to do with Pesach. It's all pagan, totally pagan. And I'm sure all the Catholics, if anybody hears me, are going to come out and kill me. Anyway, I hope they do it fast. Then let nothing of it remain until the morning, but whatever remains until the morning, you have to burn with fire. And this is how you're going to eat it. You have to be ready. You're with your belt on, your shoes on your feet. You have to be dressed, your staff in your hand, and you need to eat it in haste. It is the Lord's. Now, here this word, Passover, has nothing to do with what the word is. The word is Pesach. The word for Passover in Hebrew would be, now I wrote it down. Where did I write it here? Hold on a second. Oivar. Aleph, Ayin, Vav, Resh. Ayin, Vav with to make it O, and a Bet, and a Resh. Oivar. This one is Pesach. And in Leviticus 21:18, you can write that down and look at it later. It says, any man who has a defect shall not approach. A man blind or lame, the word for lame is faseach. Faseach is the same root as pesach, and it has the idea of immobile. He can't move. So it's not that God was going to pass over the house. It was that God was going to stay right there in front of the door where he saw the blood, and the destroyer would not enter. He would be immobile. No one could get in. And it says here, for I, meaning God, will go through the land of Egypt that night and will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt. God is doing it. His angel is just his messenger. And if his messenger does it, it's because God is doing it, both man and beast. And against all the gods of Egypt, I will execute judgment. I am the Lord. So he is the one who's going to be doing. And the blood will be a sign on the houses. And when I see the blood, I will pasach. I will protect you. I got you covered. And there shall be no plague upon you to destroy you when I smite the land of Egypt. And this day shall be to you as a memorial, and you shall keep it as a feast throughout all your generations. And this will be an ordinance forever. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread. Let me go back here. Because the blood will be a token, a sign. And guaranteed by this point, there were Egyptians who put blood on the doorposts because they knew what was going to happen. Remember, there were in the last week, we read about how he said that he told them, it's going to hail so badly, hail and fire, bring your animals into your house and get inside. And there were Egyptians who did that, and they were spared. And I'm guaranteed it was the same here. Because remember, pardon? Because they left an Erev Rav, which we'll see later. Go ahead, Miriam.
It just when it says the firstborn, I presume it's the firstborn male, no? But in the verse before it says
the Bechor is the firstborn male.
That's right. Okay, that's what
yeah,
said. Including the beasts, the cattle, etc.
Male only.
Right.
Exactly. That's also a sign, a miracle. Why isn't it the firstborn female? God was doing it that way.
No, but people tend to think, I always, without really realizing it, thought that if anyone was outside when the blood was on the lintels, but if anyone was outside, male, female, dog, cat, I thought they were all killed, but no, only the firstborn male.
Exactly. But the problem is, it wasn't that they were inside or outside. Those inside were killed because he tells them to stay inside, not to go out. He tells them, everybody, stay inside your houses. You'll see that soon. But those who are inside the house, if there was no blood, those inside would be dead, the firstborn male. Now he's saying, 7 days you are to eat matzot. However, the first day, you have to take all the leaven out of your houses. Whoever eats leavened bread from the first day to the 7th, that soul shall be cut off from Israel. So just because someone calls himself a Jew, if they don't follow this, they're cut off from Israel. According to God, they're no longer considered part of Israel.
I guess what I take from this, I know it's sort of obvious, but maybe you could become legalistic in this. It's not that, like it's a whole concept. You're not cut off just because you don't do something. The idea that as disobedience, and you're not really walking with God, because obviously if you, it's not just about following rules. It's an act of disobedience. if
It's
you don't
always
do it.
about being obedient, listening, pay attention,
Well,
and
having a
do what I
relationship
say.
with God.
Exactly. When you have a relationship with someone you trust and they tell you to do something for your good, you do it.
Yeah.
And in the first day there shall be to you a holy assembly. So it's the first day that's we have to take off. And the seventh day, a holy assembly, no manner of work shall be done in them. Here you see kol melacha, work. Melach was salt, a salary. Do not make a salary on the first day and the last day, except which every man must eat, that only may be done by you. Now, I'm not sure what this means. Save that which every man must eat, that only may be done by you. Any idea what this would mean? In the first day there shall be to you a holy convocation, and in the seventh day a holy convocation, and no manner of work shall be done in them, except that which every man, maybe if a man had to do something, that only may be done by you. From my understanding here, and I don't know if I'm right, but it's like if, let's say you're a doctor or you're a nurse,
Right.
and you need to work, but it's only you can do that. It's not like if you have a business and you have a Shabbos goy open the business while you take off.
Yeah. Or maybe there's something also with in terms of eating with food, like maybe something has to be plucked before it goes bad or something. I don't know.
Well, to me, everybody must eat means they have to earn a living. And in
All
some
right.
way,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, yes. You're right. Right.
Yeah, some way they have to, if they have to do that, but only you do it.
Right.
Yeah. And you shall observe the feast of unleavened bread, for in this same day I have brought your armies. See, God is already beginning to create his army of Israel out of the land of Egypt. Therefore, you shall observe this day throughout your generations by an ordinance forever. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month in the evening, you shall eat matzah until the 21st day of the month in the evening. 7 days there shall be no leaven found in your house, for whoever eats what is leavened, that soul shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel. Now look at this. He repeats it, which means it's important. Whether he be a sojourner in the land or one who was born in the land. The sojourner is the ger. The ger is the one who lives among us. Now, later we're going to see another word, and remind me, I'm going to come back to that because ger is different than the stranger. You shall eat nothing leavened in all your houses. You shall eat unleavened bread. Then Moses called for all the elders and said to them, take a lamb according to your families and kill the Pesach. And you shall take a bunch of hyssop, dip it in the blood that's on the basin, strike the lintel, the two sides with the blood that's in the basin, and none of you shall go out of the door of his house until morning. So no one's to go outside. For the Lord will pass through to kill the Egyptians. And when he sees the blood on the lintel and on the two side posts, the Lord will pasach the door, protect the door, and will not allow the destroyer to come into your house to smite you. And you shall observe this thing as an ordinance for you and your sons forever. And it shall come to pass, when you come to the land which the Lord will give you, according as he promised, that you shall keep this service. What service? It shall come to pass when your children shall say to you, what do you mean by this service? And you shall say, this is the Zebach Pesach. Zebach is an offering of the Lord's Pesach, for that he Pesach over the houses of the children. He Pesached in front of the houses of the children of Israel in Egypt when he smote the Egyptians and delivered our houses. And the people, Vayishtachavu, we worshiped God. And the children of Israel went and did so as the Lord had commanded Moses and Aaron, so they did. And it came to pass at midnight that the Lord struck all the firstborn males in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh who sat on his throne, to the firstborn of the slave who was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn male cattle. And Pharaoh rose up in the night, he and all his servants and all the Egyptians, and there was a great cry in Egypt, for there was not one house where there was not one dead. And he called for Moses and Aaron and said, get up, get out from among my people, both you and the children of Israel, go and serve as you have said, both you and your flocks and your herds, as you have said, and be gone and bless me also. And the Egyptians were urgent upon the people to send them out of the land in haste, for they said, otherwise we'll all be dead. And the people took their dough before it was leavened, their kneading troughs being bound upon their clothes, upon their shoulders. And the children of Israel did according to the word of Moses. Here, Jerry is where they go and ask. And they asked of the Egyptians jewels of silver, jewels of gold, and clothing. And the Lord gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, so that they gave them whatever they asked. And thus they despoiled the Egyptians. And the children of Israel journeyed from Ramses to Sukkot, about 600,000 men on foot, besides children. So here with this, we see that there's 600,000 men. These are the army, the fighting men, who would be ready to protect Israel. Besides, when it says children, without saying, we realize that there are women. It doesn't talk about the elderly. It doesn't talk about those who are with them. And Erev Rav, the mixed multitude. Those were the Egyptians who went up with them also, flocks and herds and very much cattle. So they figure that there must have been between 2 to 3 million people who left that day. Now, I don't know how many people live in Montreal. Anybody have any idea what the population is here? But imagine the city would be emptied.
Yeah, well, at least 3 million.
And they baked matzah from the dough, which they brought forth out of Egypt. It was not leavened, because they were thrust out and they could not wait. Neither had they prepared themselves any food. Now, the time that the children of Israel lived in Egypt was 430 years. Now, according to our rabbis, even though it says this, the 430 years was from when Abraham was given the vision that they would be slaves in Egypt. Because literally they only stayed, according to archaeology and according to history, only stayed in Egypt over 200, maybe around 230 years. And it came to pass at the end of 430 years, on that same day, all the armies of the Lord went out from the land of Egypt. And it was a night of watching for the Lord bringing them out of the land of Egypt. And this same night is a night of watching to the Lord for all the children of Israel throughout their generations.
There's our favorite verse. I love
Our favorite
that
verse. Me too. And the Lord said to Moses, this is the ordinance of the Pesach. Here, no alien may eat of it. It's a different word. Kol ben.
Pastor,
Brian, do you have something you want to say? Did you just say something? Okay, I'm going to put you on mute. The word here for is nechar. No alien can eat of it. The difference between a ger and a nechar is both are strangers, but the ger is a stranger who moves to another place and makes it their home. They totally appropriated them as their new home and they've left. They don't look back. The nechar always is planning on going back. His heart is not in the new land. His heart is back there. He hasn't given himself to the laws of the land. He's always wants to go home. But every man's servant who is bought for money, when you have circumcised him, then shall he eat thereof. And here, a ger, a sojourner, and a hired servant shall not eat unless they are circumcised. In one house shall it be eaten. You shall not carry forth any of the flesh abroad out of the house, and you shall not break a bone. And I was wondering, why wouldn't they bring the food? And why wouldn't they break the bone? So what I saw was that the kings, when they would eat meat, they would never break the bone. That was for the poor. It was a
Is
poor.
that true? I mean,
Yes.
and I'm not saying, of course it's true if you're saying, that's a thing that a sign
This
of
is a thing. This is a sign of class.
right. Wow.
They were now getting out of slavery and they were going to be made like kings.
I find that absolutely amazing.
Yes.
And also from the point of view of people always saying that,
There's
when
no,
Jesus,
Miriam, you don't want to turn your camera on so I can see you while
Oh.
you're speaking. It's just that I'm looking at a.
oh,
is-
okay, because I'm okay.
Okay.
Well, I will ask. Okay, not right this second.
All
'cause
right, no problem.
I'm
But
chewing.
breaking a bone has to do with, like, the poor would even eat the marrow of the bone, but a wealthy man would never do that.
I never knew that because that's one of the things.
Neither did I.
Jesus, maybe what some Christians interpret as a sign of a
Has
Messiah being
nothing to
shown.
do with it.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
But now that you're saying this, which I never knew about, it's
Yeah.
amazing. It was showing that Yeshua it was sign of royalty, not that only that he was
Yes.
physically or by his lineage, but by what he did in
Yes.
terms of being a righteous man and
Yeah.
interesting.
They call him King Mashiach.
Right.
He didn't come to do what most people think Mashiach is coming to do, which is to conquer. At that time, his role, Moses's role, was to bring us the Torah. Yeshua's role was to bring us back to the Torah.
Right.
And it says, don't take any of the flesh outside your house. They had no way to store it. It was going to go rotten, and they would have to learn to trust God. All the congregation of Israel shall keep it. When a stranger, the ger, lives with you and keeps the Pesach to the Lord, let all his males be circumcised. You see, a stranger, the ger, not only the natural-born Israelites, also the ger would be circumcised. That's a sign of total commitment to be part of our people. Let him come near and keep it. He shall be as one who is born in the land, but no uncircumcised person shall eat of it. This is really important. The only way that anybody could sit at a Pesach table is that they must be circumcised, which means they're fully given to be part of our people. And it says here, why is that so? Torah achat, one Torah for him who was born in the land and for the stranger, the ger, who's living with you. That's really important. There's no such thing, according to God, as the Noahide laws. This is a made-up thing, where only the 7 laws of Noah that they made up is to be kept by the ger. Here, it's one Torah for him, for us, and for them, those who are committed because of circumcision. Thus did all the children of Israel, as the Lord commanded Moses and Aaron, so they did. And it came to pass that same day, the Lord brought the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt by their armies. And here we're just going to read till we're now on chapter 13, and we're just going to go to verse 16. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, sanctify me, Kadesh, set apart for me all the firstborn males, Kol Bechor. This is the Pinyin Ben. Whoever opens the womb among the children of Israel, both man and beast, is mine. Moses said to the people, remember this day where you came out of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. We are no longer to be slaves. For by strength of hand, by a mighty hand, the Lord brought you out from this place. There shall be no leavened bread eaten. This day you go forth in the month of Aviv. That was the original, that's spring. It was the original name before it was given a Babylonian name called Nisan. This month was called Aviv. And it shall be when the Lord shall bring you into the land of the Canaanite and the Hittite and the Amorite, the Hivite, the Jebusite, which he swore to your fathers to give you, a land flowing with milk and honey, that you shall keep this service, this avodah, in this month. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread, and the 7th day shall be a feast to the Lord. So you have many people do on the 7th day, they have another Seder. Unleavened bread shall also be eaten, throughout the 7 days. There shall be no leavened bread with you. Look how often he repeats it. When he repeats it, he wants us to pay attention. No leaven shall be seen with you in all your borders. You shall tell your son in that day, saying, it's because of what the Lord did for me when I came forth out of Egypt. And it shall be ot between you and it shall be a sign upon your hand and as a memorial between your eyes. This is where they get us doing tefillin. The men do tefillin. They put the box as a sign, a memorial between their eyes, and they wrap it around their hand as a sign upon their hand. It's not what God was asking, but they took it more literally, and that's what they do today. This is where it comes from. The Torah of the Lord, so that the Torah of the Lord may be in your mouth. Speak it, don't be afraid, because it was a strong hand that the Lord brought us out of Egypt. You shall keep this ordinance, this chukah, in its season from year to year. And when it shall be when the Lord shall bring you into the land of the Canaanite, as he swore to you and to your fathers, and shall give it to you, you shall set apart to the Lord all who opens the womb. This is the Pinyin Ben, the Bechor. Every first male, either the female come out of a female woman or that comes out of a beast, shall belong to the Lord. Yud, He, Vav, He. And every first of a donkey you shall redeem with a lamb. And if you shall not redeem it, then you break its neck. Let me tell you, you don't want to do that, so you're going to redeem it. And all the firstborn of man among your sons shall you buy. You're going to redeem it with a coin. And it shall be when your son asks you in times to come, what is this? You shall say to him, by a mighty hand, the Lord brought us out from Egypt, out of the house of bondage. And it shall come to pass when Pharaoh would hardly let us go, that the Lord killed all the firstborn males in the land of Egypt, both of man and of beast. Therefore, I offer to the Lord all the firstborn males who come out of the womb, but all the firstborn of my sons I redeem. And it shall be a sign upon thy hand and frontlets between your eyes. And again, he repeats the same thing, because what he's saying, basically what it means is that everything that I do with my hands and everything that I see with my eyes is going to remember the almighty strength of the Lord and how he brought us out of Egypt.
But what's the relationship that with putting on tefillin, Peggy?
Well, the tefillin, it brings into the physical what is spiritual. There's nothing wrong with it. Brian, I'm going to turn off your camera because it's going crazy. If I can. No. Anyway, very often our rabbis have taken things and made them very physical. God does not always ask us to do that. But what he wants us is to understand the idea of it. The frontlets between the eyes and putting the tefillin on the hands, it means it's like the mezuzah. The mezuzah, the way we see it today on the doorposts of our houses. I have one outside this room, outside my front door. It's originally, it was carved into the lintels of the door. I don't think it was a separate piece with a little Torah in it. This has all been adapted for us today as we move around, because we couldn't take the whole lintel with us, but we would carve something in the doorpost showing that this was a house of an Israelite. Now I have a mezuzah showing that this is a house of an Israelite, but I'm in diaspora. I don't know if that answered your question.
No, so your rabbi was putting on tefillin, or?
He did, because it was part of his custom, but he understood why he was doing it. You know, when I see people, people going into the shopping centers and grabbing a Jew and putting on the tefillin and having him say a prayer that doesn't mean anything and putting on these things that don't mean anything, they say it's a mitzvah. The guy doesn't understand what he's doing. It's not the act that's important. It reminds me of a young woman who I met one day. I was walking through the park and I saw an Orthodox Jewish girl sitting under a tree, and she had her little tefillin with her. Tefillim, which means the Psalms. And she was reading, and I saw her mouthing the words in Hebrew. And I asked her which Psalm and what it meant. She said, I don't know. I'm just reading it. Because it was a mitzvah to read it in Hebrew. And to me, that's sacrilege. Because if you don't know what you're reading, what's the point? It's like when I would hear Christians saying they put the Bible under the pillow so that it would get absorbed. I mean, there's nonsense. We have to know what we're reading. God doesn't ask us to leave our brains at the door. He wants us to understand what we're reading, what we're doing, and why we're doing it, because we're in a relationship with him. That's why and I'll repeat it over and over, that's why it's so important to read his Torah. The world is in a mess because we're not reading his Torah and living it, because we've forgotten there's a creator, and our people have forgotten our role our purpose, which is to come back to him, to do teshuvah. Teshuvah is not a feeling. I heard a rabbi today in a speech he was given, talking to the people, saying, we have to do teshuvah. And as he was speaking, he said, I feel teshuvah. What does it mean? Teshuvah is understanding that we acknowledge things that we do wrong, that we humble ourselves. We are weak, we are frail, we make mistakes. But we go to our God when we do something wrong, and we offer ourselves to him and say, please, hear my prayer. I'm acknowledging what I've done wrong. Help me to change. Help me to make things right. And then I can begin again. This is
just a question. I think it's not too different. Like putting on a mezuzah on the door and putting on a tefillin is not dissimilar. It's it's the same idea of doing
Yes.
something.
Yes, when you understand what you're doing. Really, just to put a mezuzah on the door, what does it mean? When I go into
it has Hero Israel in the mezuzah.
Yeah, and how many Israelites? How many Israelites are really here?
And I think that the tefillin has the same thing. Shema Yisrael.
I don't know. I've never looked inside the box.
Yeah.
I don't know what's in it.
Well, yeah, it's. I think it's the same. Similar to mezuzah. I'm not sure exactly, but anyhow.
When Israel was in Egypt land, let my people go. Oppressed so hard we could not stand. Let my people go. Go down, Moses, way down in Egypt land. Tell old Pharaoh, let my people go. Thus saith the Lord, bold Moses said, let my people go. If not, I'll strike your firstborn dead. Let my people go. Go down, Moses, way down in Egypt land. Tell old Pharaoh, let my people go. That's what we need to do.
That's very. You sang this with inspiration, Peggy.
These Torah portions really do inspire.
And for me, I saw a difference. Now that you sang it after reading the Torah, I felt, I saw, I heard a difference.
Yeah.
I felt the emotion there now.
Yeah. So
you want me to say that blessing for now, or
I do. Yes, please.
Okay, I'll just get the book. And special blessing for all of us in general, and for one particular, they should have a refuah shlema of what I heard, and
Yes,
that's what I heard. I'm sure there's many people require refuah shlema, but what I heard today was from you, and with you in mind.
yeah, refuah shlema. In case you don't know what it means, it's a complete, total healing.
And we could all use that, Miriam, and
that's
Bernie, the whole group, the Kol Yisrael.
Everybody, the whole world needs a total healing.
And,
yes.
Okay, this is the it's the
Aaronic benediction.
It's the blessing of the Kohanim, and Kohanim they call that also Kohanim. They said the holy people, and
Yes.
as you mentioned, holy people means sanctified or separated, whatever.
Right.
So sometimes before you do a commandment, it's sometimes there's an opinion that you should say a blessing before. So here's the blessing. I'm going to read it in Hebrew and then in English. Blessed art thou, Lord our God, King of the universe, who has sanctified Kohanim with the holiness of Aaron and commanded the Kohanim to bless the people Israel with love. Yevarechecho Adonai v'yishmorecho. Yo'er Adonai pono v'elecho v'chuneko. Yiso Adonai pono v'elecho v'yosem lecho shalom. V'samu et shemi al b'nei Yisrael v'ani arvorachem. And I think, Peggy, you'd like to read that in English, eh?
Well, unless you want to read it, you're very welcome to read it.
No, you're good. You're good. You're good. I did.
Because
You're
this
good.
is really a message for all peoples. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord shine his face upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift his countenance upon you and give you his shalom. So shall they put my name, meaning his name, upon the children of Israel, and he will bless us. Amen v'amen.
Amen.
So I thank you, everybody, again. Do you have anything else you want to add before we close out? Anything that has to do with the Torah portion? We can speak about other things more personal at another time, but this is for...
Call me back to test the new phone if it receives the
Yes,
ring.
Brian. Yes, Brian. So is there anything else that you have to say about this portion? But it was good. We learned a few new points, and thank you. Thank you, Jerry, for your feedback. Miriam, always a delight to listen to your feedback. Brian, thank you for being with us, and for all those who are watching from out there. Yes.
So just to say, we are not stopping because there is no end. We are adjourning.
We are adjourning, and next week we read. Next week we'll be reading. Hold on, I should have this prepared because I think it's my turn to speak on it. Bo. Oh, it's February already. Ooh, and we're entering the month Shvat, and the next portion is called Bishalach, and it's going to be very exciting, as usual. So have a nice evening, a wonderful evening, and I say God bless you to everyone. Thank you so much.
God bless you.